God. It's Memorial Day and the sun hasn't come up yet, so hopefully it'll be a nice peaceful day at the shop without a whole bunch of interruptions. Check it out, there's not a single person here. It's the greatest day of my life. I guess I'll push it outside and get it started, cold start, configure all the inputs and outputs and all that before we get started. Just pulled the tune file out of this and has the greatest masterpiece I've ever seen. I think I'm just going to tell him to come pick it up. We don't even need to tune it. Here's the learn table currently from their drive here. I'm obviously just kidding. It does look like it's pretty close, but the file that they're using out of this is out of another one of our mutual friends' cars that I tuned not too long ago. So the setup is really close, so maybe we'll get lucky and this one will actually go kind of smooth.
Instantly, I regret saying that.
All right, I made 3,000 changes, so I'm going to log a cold start, and hopefully it's in the ballpark enough to where we can just tweak it from the log and get it to where we need it to be. I forgot to log it. God, I'm an idiot. It's acting real glitchy already. All right, I'm just gonna give it a minute to warm up. See how it's being glitchy and like pausing? That's gonna be annoying. It's running pretty good though. Gosh, that was the most uneventful cold start ever. I don't even know if we need to adjust anything. I don't like the way that this drops into gear when you go from park or neutral into drive. So that might require messing with the throttle body a little bit. We'll have to see. Other than that, I guess it's ready to just put it on the dyno. I think one of those metal beavers got a hold of this stud. The last car that was on here was not a turd. So this is a longtime customer, longtime friend's car, and we have tons of mutual friends, like a whole group. They've been around since maybe day one, very close to it anyway. So we built and tuned lots of cars together. A good friend of mine did most of the fabrication work and stuff on this. So the car itself was a hell of a deal. I don't know if it probably came from Facebook Marketplace, but it's in real good shape. It has a bunch of like good parts, good rear shocks, you know, all that good stuff. And he picked it up for next to nothing. The motor is built to an extent, and it was also a Facebook Marketplace deal. I'm always 100% comfortable buying cars off of Facebook Marketplace because you can check them out real good, but motors can be a little bit questionable, but so far it seems just fine. So hopefully it has what it's supposed to have in it and no surprises. Motor's a 6.0, turbo's a VS Racing 80 millimeter. Probably, well not probably, definitely way bigger than it needs to be. If I had to guess, they probably chose this turbo because it looks cool. And this is 100% street car. Has a built 4L80 in it. And honestly, this thing could probably make 400 horsepower and he'd be perfectly happy with it. But the way he's always done his cars is kind of overbuild them and hope that they never break. So has way more stuff on it than what it really needs. And I asked what their kind of goals were power-wise, and I got told like whatever you think. This only has Injector Dynamics 1050X injectors in it, so that's going to be our deciding factor. With that being said, it should probably, I don't know, make 750, 800 depending on efficiency. And I don't remember what pump or pumps are in this. I did notice when I was jacking it up, it has a stock fuel tank, so I don't know if it has internal pumps or some sort of like big external. This has dome pressure 2 solenoids, but no CO2. So depending on what springs in it, that also might dictate where we kind of got to stop. And so far, other than the computer acting a little bit glitchy, which very well might just be my laptop needing a update or restart or something. But other than that, the only other red flag that I currently see so far is that all of the spark plug wires are resting on the header. They do have the boot things on them, but those never work. So we might have some limited time before those destroy themselves. So we're gonna start on pump gas and see what happens. Okay, let's, damn it.
Gentlemen, I just realized I've forgotten to take a shit.
Step number 1 when tuning a car, always check to see how much gas you have. Oh wait. All right, got everything all set up. I think I'm going to do the fueling first. It's pretty close from what I can tell, so it might be more of like a verification, but what I do want to do on this one is spend some time using the dyno to sort out the part throttle timing. That can be a little trickier to do. This dyno does an awesome job at helping with that. Fueling is probably going to be pretty boring, so maybe I'll just film a little bit of the timing. Please hold. All right, we have problem number 1. Check out what the flex fuel sensor is doing. Of course, now it's not doing it. Actually, did you see that? Now we got problem number 2. Look at the fuel pressure. All right, let's take a look at the fuel pressure deal. It probably either has one of those like P4QT, whatever those $9 regulators that you can buy on Amazon, but I don't think he put one of those on this car, so maybe the return line's a little bit kinked. Let's take a look. Looks like it's got a nice air motive regulator on there, so that's not a problem. The fuel line is a little bit kinked. I don't know if that's necessarily enough to cause a problem. And then we got the flex fuel sensors down there. Uh-oh. Let's see if we can't see anything in the fender. So everything looks okay. I can't say I would have mounted the sensor right there. It's like right in the fender well. But nothing jumps out, so we'll just have to see what's going on with that, I guess. Definitely looks cool. I don't think I've ever actually seen one of these intakes in person. Just in case you can't remember what size your throttle body is, it lets you know. So it looks like the fuel pressure is going to do the acceleration enrichment for us, apparently. So as long as it will maintain a steady pressure once we get a little bit of load on it, I think we'll be all right. Obviously not ideal, but I don't have control over that, unfortunately. Let's try this again. Since it was so close, I thought I might be able to be lazy and just drive it around and populate the learn table. This is doing like the classic example of where the closed loop and the learn are fighting each other. And every time I try and use the learn, it just, for me, it just does more harm than good. So we're gonna turn that off and go back to just the old-fashioned way of doing it. I scaled the fuel table to this to 35 pounds just in case every now and then all these guys decide they want to go to the track one time and like turn it up. So we don't have the injector for it up here, but this way if he ever decides to do that, then it's ready. Otherwise, like, we have more than enough resolution, so I'm okay with that. I'll just drive around a little bit. bit of changes. Actually got it a lot closer. I've probably said this a million times, but at this stage of it, I just kind of move numbers around. As you saw, I was highlighting big giant chunks and try and get it into the ballpark. And once it's close, then I start kind of trying to really fine tune it. You can see we got like a launch ramp here. We'll probably end up with like a launch ramp up, more up here. That's pretty normal, but right now we got to figure this out. Probably this whole chunk in here is gonna need some tweaking, but this part's boring, so that's enough of that. Did another round of revisions. Let's see if this is any closer. I think that's going to be good enough to get us to start going. We'll touch it up some on the street. This is obviously a converter car, so can't dial it in quite as much as I'd like as far as holding it at any and every given RPM like we can on a manual trans car, but I think we're in the ballpark. I'll show you a quick example. We'll like hold the car at a given speed and move some timing around. You can watch a torque jump around. I've been spending the last however long messing with the idle. I think I got that pretty close now. Returns idle real nice. So let's play with the timing real quick and then we'll start making some power runs. Hopefully this has some reasonable wastegate springs in it. I'll just do this real crude. You watch the torque over here. So you can see, obviously it gives you a real-time torque. There's actually another like whole table configuration setting in here that's real nice. If we connect the ECU to the dyno, then it'll plot everything out, timing and horsepower and torque or whatever. It's awesome. It's just really tedious. But yeah, that's like an invaluable feature of the dyno for sure. All right, I think we're about ready to make our first full throttle run. We'll probably make a little baby one and hope we don't have 300-pound wastegate springs in here. It's done. We can go home now. Made 533. Closed loop correction was like between 0 and 2%. And I gotta check and see what the boost was. All right, so I made 533 and looks like the throttle is either not opening all the way or not calibrated all the way. So check that out. Let me see how closed loop is. Basically nothing, and we're about 5 pounds of boost, so that's awesome power for 5 pounds. I just wish this had a open loop single solenoid on this, since it doesn't have CO2. Usually trying to program just using like the compressor for it is not my favorite. Sometimes they work just fine, other times they can be super finicky, so we'll see what we're up against with this one. And I'm going to dig through this, see what our tip in looks like and a bunch of other stuff, but so far on the track. Oh, I wanted to look at the fuel pressure. Yeah, so fuel pressure went up significantly higher than it should have, so that's kind of interesting. It's relatively stable, so probably just going to end up with much lower than normal VE numbers. Again, that's not something that I have control over, unfortunately. So it looked like it kind of had a small fuel return line on it, so maybe it's got a bunch of pump and not enough return line. So I'd much rather have that problem than the other issue where pressure is dropping. And man, that was an uneventful 500 horsepower, 550, whatever it was, but in a good way. That's usually a good sign. All right, so the TPS issue is not the floor mat, it's the actual carpet. So you get to like 80% and it feels like you're full throttle, but you're not. And then you got to like smash it through the carpet. So I guess that last run wasn't even full throttle, so that's pretty cool. What should we do now? It's got like no timing in it. It kind of feels pointless to try and really dial the timing in at 5 pounds of boost. Maybe I'll bump the boost up to, wait, so if we got a 5-pound wastegate spring and no CO2, this thing's gonna crap out on power really early. So that's actually gonna be a problem. All right, I'll just throw a little bit of dome pressure at it and try and get the boost up to at least 7 or 8 pounds. I don't know, let's maybe shoot for like 600-ish horsepower. That feels like a good number. So the worst part about no CO2 is you don't really get to test it out and configure it, just key on engine off. So we actually have to try it. So we're gonna do boost versus speed, and we've got a 5-pound target right now. So let's see what happens. I don't have high hopes that this is just gonna work out the way we want it to first try. You got a little too much ISC park position at the startup at this temperature. Keep fiddling with that each time we start it. Let's see what happens. Something's not right. Oh, I don't need to do that. The fill solenoid went to 100% duty cycle, but the dome pressure didn't change any. So now we got to figure out if it's plumbed wrong, wired wrong, or configured wrong. Let's see. So what's interesting on that one is the boost actually went down to 2 psi. Maybe the increase and decrease solenoids are backwards. I still wouldn't really explain the loss of that much boost. That might be the easiest thing to test. Let's try that first. 593, so that's probably a good sign that that fixed it. Let's take a look at the log real quick. The plat thickens. The boost went up to about 6 pounds, 6.5 pounds, but we're still showing 0 for dome pressure. So let's keep investigating. All right, so nothing really makes any sense, or it's just kind of guessing at this point. So what I'm gonna do, turn on the air compressor and run an air line to the solenoids, and then that way I can see what the hell's going on rather than sitting here guessing all day, and make sure it's wired right, plumbed right, configured right, and that the dome sensor is actually working. It's a little bit interesting. The boost did go up a little bit even though everything's pegged at 100. Okay, so I think we confirmed that the solenoids were configured backwards based off of the wiring diagram I was given. But if we go to, there we go. So you can hear it leaking like crazy. I have the line disconnected. So it appears that we're good on the solenoids. Now the problem is that the dome sensor just reads 0, and I have not been able to trace the wiring, and I don't know if the sensor's bad or what the deal is with that. So now I got to make a decision on trying to find a workaround for that, or do we just disconnect one of the solenoids and just run open loop? I'm gonna keep digging some more. Here, I'll show you the setup. Yeah, so basically just a solenoid to air compressor, and then going to the solenoids here. All right, since the dome pressure sensor doesn't work and the flex fuel sensor is not working well enough to be able to, you know, use that for any type of tuning, I think what I'm going to do is just plumb the regulator to the solenoids, I'm sorry, to the wastegates directly. We'll just bypass the boost control altogether, and then they can sort out the solenoids, the dome sensor, and the flex fuel sensor, and then we can just kind of try again for round 2. So let me plumb that, and then we can, I don't know, probably make a couple more runs, and I'll consider that good. I don't know, I'll probably just wait to play with the trans and do that type of stuff until I guess we're completely finished with everything. That probably makes the most sense, right? So I took a known good dome pressure sensor, plugged it into the harness itself, and pressurized it. No reading on anything, and then also tried all of the available inputs, just in case that was also like pinned incorrectly, but still nothing. So I'm guessing that we have something actually wired improperly there. Tried chasing the wiring around. I can't really make sense of what's what down there, and I'm gonna let them take care of that. All right, the gauge on this regulator doesn't really read much below 10 pounds, so we're somewhere in between 5 and 10 pounds. Let's see what happens. Well, now I'm at 0 PSI and 330 horsepower. So this day is turning into a disaster pretty quick. All right, that one actually might have been my fault. They had this plumbed a little differently than I was anticipating. So I think rather than applying the pressure to the top of the gates, I think I was applying it to the side. So we'll try this one more time and hopefully it'll work out. Try to make a bunch of boost. So that's actually a good sign. We'll let out of it about 500 horsepower. Let's reconfigure this. People from one of the other shops came in, they're smoking a bunch of weed, so if you can get high through a camera, you're welcome. Got out of that one real early because it's making too much power. It didn't make a lot of boost. I think I saw like 10 pounds. It made, I'm dying. Made 760. That's way too much for a pump gas. I'm gonna die. Oh shit. Yeah, see, got out of it. What the hell is, my God. I can tell I got out of it way early, made a bunch of power. So I don't know if I can even go any lower on the regulator. Damn it. It looks like it made it up to about 12 pounds. Oh, this thing's making a ton of power for 12 pounds. But here's the regulator. If you try and go lower than that, it just sort of doesn't seem like anything's really happening. But I'm going to try and cut this in half again. Actually, I'm going to go all the way down to bleed everything out. So no tension. I guess there's a little bit. Actually, that's about where I was last time. Holy crap, let me go down more. Alright, there we go. It's about tensions right now. Does that even count as anything? No. Okay, since it's making so much power, I brought the boost cut down. I think it just set it 11 pounds or something. And obviously you just watch me turn all the regular down as low as I can get it, basically. So I'm gonna try one more time. This is all totally a waste of time. I just kind of want to be able to call them and say, hey, it's sort of done on pump gas. Here's what it made. So this will probably be our last attempt at fooling with this stupid boost control thing. Still more power than I want it to be. It made 10 PSI. As I dig through this log, the fueling is really close. Given the power it says it's making, I actually put a little bit of timing out, even though I don't suspect they're going to be driving it with anything other than, just gate pressure or whatever. But a few things. One, we need the flex fuel sensor to work before we can do anything with ethanol. The fact it's shooting all over the place isn't going to cut it. Also, our battery voltage at about 6,000 RPM goes from like 13.8 to like in the 11s. So I need to take care of that. Our boost control is not working. Our dome pressure sensor, it seems like the boost control after swapping the inputs seems to be okay, but the dome pressure sensor does not work. And oil pressure looks good. Everything else looks good, but the fuel pressure is rising significantly more than boost is, and power seems high given the boost. And I've triple verified that the map sensor is configured correctly to what I was told that it is. However, I can't verify that with my own eyes because the map sensor is mounted underneath the intake manifold. So I have this weird suspicion that maybe the fuel pressure is right and the boost is wrong. And as you can imagine, that scares me. And since there are a handful of other things that also need to be addressed, I think I'm going to have them just take care of all of it. It runs good enough now that we can have them make a pass just up the road and send me logs, and we can verify that everything is good to go. And then I think we'll do a round 2 dyno session. So with all that being said, I think we're going to wrap this video up here.